Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm April Honey and you have arrived at another custom code tutorial. We are going to be making a dirt path, and I'm hoping that with this dirt path I am finally going to answer all of the questions. I'm going to cover it all. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a color palette, and I always use that fourth shade, the orange color, and that eighth vividness in it, and then I alternate between the 5th and the 9th shades in brightness on the very bottom. Then I'm going to texturize the main piece. This main piece is one that you're going to want to rotate around. You're going to want to make sure that it kind of lines up on each side, and it doesn't look like there's a line going through when you put several of them next to each other, because it's going to be the base for all of your pathing. So it's going to be the most crucial, integral part of your entire design. So you want to do a combination of the shade lighter and the shade darker of the two of the main color. The main color is going to be the one right smack in the middle. And you're going to want to go one shade darker, one shade lighter for the texturizing. Kind of clump it together a little bit so it looks like actual dirt, like that, how actual dirt is kind of clumpy. And then I compared it to an old piece that I made in the past in order to see if it was lining up well or if I was doing too much. The next thing I do is I make like this denim to mori pattern that I have that I made it 2 years ago now, but it works for me. All right. It makes sure that the pieces aren't going to look the same or look like round or straight edges. It makes them look a little bit more natural. And I always do this as the second step all the way around. I know it seems kind of silly. Why not finish one piece at a time? But I find if I go in steps like this, then I don't have a block in how things are looking. It all ends up cohesive because I'm doing the same step for every piece, all the way around the circle over and over again. You know what I mean? Like, I don't move on to the next step until everything has gone through this step. I will put pictures to this 9-piece path that I have over in the Discord so that you guys can see it and copy it if you'd like. Otherwise, this is it. You can screenshot it. I think I did it slow enough that you guys will be able to screenshot it this time as well. But I do go, this is a very, very valid path all on its own. I have done it without pixelizing it, just using this type of edge. It looks great on the grass. I do love the way it looks. And then with a straight piece, I just take one of the sides and then I add the other side, you know, like I take the other side from pattern and I copy it to that straight piece. And then for the top and bottom straight piece, the horizontal straight piece, I do the same. I just take the top piece and I add the bottom onto it. It ends up working out pretty darn well. I copy and paste that twice, and then I do the end caps on the single space design. This is the one that I get asked for the most. All I do is I kind of just texture it out a little bit and make it look like an end piece. I just take what I have already for the center piece, and then I just take that piece and I make it into an end cap on its own. You know what I mean? So I don't reinvent the wheel. I take the piece that already exists and then I change it a little bit to make it look rounded off on the edge, but jaggedly rounded. It can't look perfectly rounded because this is a dirt path we're talking about here. And then after I do all of that on both of the edges for the horizontal and the straight piece, I move on to outlining it. So for the outline, I take the darkest color and I go and I do an outline. This just helps define your path, right? It helps show where your path is. If you use this path, this piece all on its own and just add flowers from this point, it will look like it's sunk into the ground from the grass. You know, it's like sunken down a little bit, like the grass has grown around the dirt. So that outline will look a little bit like a shadow. Then I take the next two colors and I outline them. You know, I do 3 outlines inside of each other, inner outlines or inner shadows, however you want to call it, but it makes it all look nice and sunken in. I just like having that little definition around the edges. It looks really nice. It does, laying on the ground. It looks really nice to have the edges of your code defined like that. So I go and I do this to all of the pieces. Like I said, I make sure I do all of these pieces one at a time together so that they look like they're cohesive and they go together. I don't want my code to look like it's, 5 different codes. So I do it all together and make sure that it all, kind of gels together, and I'm using the same colors on all of them. I don't want anything to look like the colors are not going to be right. So I am just going to go through all of it for every single piece of this path. Over the next couple weeks, I'll be adding in a few shorts because there's pieces that I would like to add to this code. I would like to add some stone pieces, some random stone pieces, like with the stones in the dirt for like the center pieces. And I would also like to add some planks, like some wooden plank directional pieces to the dirt path. So because of all of that, I'm going to be adding a little bit to this code, and I will go ahead and add either videos or shorts for the extra pieces that I add in. Hopefully you guys will be able to find them very easily. And I'll put a channel, like a community tab post when I do more of those, so that if it's something that interests you, you guys can hopefully find it a little bit easier. Because I feel like I've shown you how to do this base path quite a few times now, and I want to make sure that we're getting past this base path and that we're moving on, and we're just going to do the entire code this time. I don't want to leave anything out. I want to make sure that you guys understand the entire process. So the next thing that I do for the path that I use personally, or that I'm using on this island, is I pixelize the edges. And there's a couple things you have to keep in mind when you're pixelizing the edges, and one is the right and left side, or the connecting piece. When you get all the way to the edge, you need to cut back on the pixelization and make sure that there's solid pieces on both edges, so that when you connect it to like a centerpiece, it doesn't look too disjointed. So that's one of the biggest complaints I hear, is that people will do all of this pixelization, but towards the outer edges, you do need to ease it up. So I do go back later and I fill in some of the edges again to make it kind of less pixelated along the edge, so that it kind of goes together. And sometimes what happens when I'm when I'm making it is I go a little crazy with the pixelization, then I go back in with the main color and I fill some of it back in. And that's what I did with this one. I did fill in a little bit of the outer edge where it's going to connect, because at that point, if it connects to the very basic plain center piece, you don't want it to look like there's a big giant line going through and that piece is like an X, you know what I mean? You want it to actually fit in. I need to stop saying, you know what I mean. I'm so sorry for that. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pixelize all of these edges, just sort of kind of get it the way I want it. That's going to be a process that you're going to have to do. Unfortunately, there's not really a good way to teach you or show you how to do this exactly. I mean, of course, I can put up my pixels in the Discord, which I'm going to do, but if you want to learn how to do this very naturally on your own, you're gonna have to just kind of pull out the tool and you're gonna have to do it over and over again. What I do suggest is every step of the way, like the first step with those base pieces before the outline, I saved them up to the design portal. Then the next step, after I did the outline, I saved those pieces to the design portal. Then after I pixelate, I saved those to the design portal. And then the final piece, after all of the flowers and the things have been added to it, I saved that to the design portal. And the reason I do that is to make everything easy to fix. Like if I mess up at any point here, I can just download the step before it and start over again. I don't have to worry about having to redo an entire piece because I saved them all. So I make sure that I save every single step to the custom design portal. That way, if I don't like what I've done, I can go back and I can salvage my overall design and not have to worry about having to remake the entire thing. Now, as far as me using the line tool is not better than the pencil tool in any way. It's not that. For me, I have trouble with my thumbs and controlling the pixel, like the pen. So if I use the pixel tool and I try to make like lines, it'll go swirly and whatnot because my thumb is a little bit shaky. So this for me is the easiest way to control where things are gonna lay. And it works for my disability, it works for me. But you can find other ways that are going to work for you. You're just going to have to experiment and try it several times. Maybe you make several dirt paths before you make one that you really, really love. Trust me, I did not make the greatest dirt path the first time I made it. It was always a process. You know, every code that you make is a little bit of a process. And then as you make more and more, it becomes so much easier. I promise it really does. Everything gets easier with practice. This is no different. This tool works a little bit different than your average pixel art. I do understand that. You start to get a feel for where the pixels are going to go after a while, and it does help. So the last thing I did, because this island is named Blossom, of course I wanted there to be flowers. And this is my members island, and the color scheme that they chose for the members island were purple, yellow, and white flowers. So I put some purple and white flowers throughout this path. I just thought it would be really pretty. I'm in love with the daisy code. I just like it a lot. And then of course I added some leaves around. I did the leaves and stuff around the edges. I do have other codes where I put leaves and whatnot in the middle too, but for this one in itself, I left it around the edges. On the edge pieces, I didn't go down too far into the path. I just wanted a pretty little flower outline, I guess, where the grass is meeting the dirt. I just thought that would be really pretty, so that's kind of where I went with that. I did two kinds of flowers, like one that looks like a 5-point flower and one that looks like a daisy, and that's just kind of the two that I chose for this code. I thought they were going to be really cute, and I am happy with them. I do like the way they went. With the yellow right there, I chose kind of with the green, I chose kind of a desaturated green, which I think I might go back and saturate it a little bit more and make it look a little bit more green so that it pops more in the grass. I think it ended up fading in a little bit too much, but I typically will use the green that is right next to the yellow. That's almost like a lime green, because for some reason, the greens in this game are either overly saturated or really unnatural looking and almost a little too blue. So in order to try and find something that went with the spring grass, I used that yellowy one a little bit more this time. But you don't have to. You can choose any green that you like. And then for the lavenders, I just chose your basic lavender, nothing crazy. Just your regular lavender purple color. I'll put my color palette in the description as well. Hopefully that helps you out. The color palette is going to change a little bit when I take out some of the flowers and add stones instead, when I change out some of the accents, because there's only 15 spaces for a color palette. You have to be very, very specific with what you're doing. Otherwise it won't work. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you. And that's it. I'm just adding these little flowers around all of the edges of everything. And I'm not really doing much else besides that. I'm going with just two basic different kinds of flowers, and then these tiny little blossoms throughout, and then some very basic leaves that are like the easiest kind of leaves to do. So hopefully this is pretty straightforward for you guys and very explanatory. If you guys have any questions, I try to answer all of my comments that are questions in the description down below. So if you have any questions, no matter how long the video has been out, you can feel free to ask me in the comments and I will answer as best as I can. And if I respond to you and you have a question to my response, please just comment again, because YouTube doesn't notify me the same way if you guys respond to my comments. So I don't actually get those so easily, and those are a little harder to respond to, but new comments I always get very easily. So if you have a question about something I commented, maybe just write a new question with the new question, so that way I'm sure to see it. I do typically remember people's names. It's funny, we were just talking about this last night in the creator community. If you've commented more than once, I remember your name. I'm not a huge creator. I'm a very small creator. So I remember everybody that pops in. You guys touch my heart. You mean so much to me, and I remember you and all of your suggestions, comments, all of those leave an impression on me. I take all of your suggestions to heart, all of your requests to heart. So any requests you have, I do try to make all of them. I do have a list. I listen to your advice and your opinions. So you guys have such a big impact on me and what I do. So please feel free to leave any comments that you want or ask any questions that you need to ask. If you make anything that you would like to share with me, please feel free to use the hashtag #AprilHoney. I would love to see what you're creating out there, and I would love to share it if you're open to sharing it. I appreciate all of you guys so much. I appreciate any amount of time that you spend with me. Your time is a very valuable resource, and the idea that you would be willing to give me any of it means the entire world to me. I can't even describe to you. I hope everyone has a wonderful day or night, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.